Many years ago, when my mom was a kid, she had known a friend who owned a Super Nintendo. With games like Super Mario World, the first Mortal Kombat, Prince of Persia, and many more games from that era, she fondly remembers the time she was able to visit her and play some games with her together. That friend sometimes even let her borrow the system, so she could play it at home by herself. She loved every second of that time spent playing video games. It was something truly magical for her. Unfortunately, time wasn't too nice to her, both kind of forcing her to move to another country and get a chronic disease at a young age, which would make her unable to play games for longer than a few minutes. That disease occurring with the birth of me. Even though she couldn't play video games anymore, she wanted to have us, me and my little brother, experience the same emotions with video games that she had many years ago. I can't really remember when it was, but at a very young age I received my very first home console from her as a present. I was weirded out at first, but sticking in that Super Mario Bros. Cartridge and playing the game for the first time, I was really happy. My mom taught me to blow into the cartridge if it hasn't worked, and my 200 IQ brain decided to lick that bad boy every time. And as you would expect, it worked every time. Some family members lent us a lot of games that they had for that system. Let me tell you, I had a lot of games for the SNES. Every 2D Mario game, every Donkey Kong Country, Prince of Persia, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Worms, Terranigma, The Flintstones, The Treasure of Sierra Madrock, Street Fighter 2, I can't remember which version, F-Zero, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Kart, some soccer game, Stunt Race FX, Super Metroid, Kirby's Dream Course, some Mega Man games, NBA Jam, Super Bomberman, and also some Wario Tetris game. It has been a while, I don't remember their names. And hey, probably even more. And to be honest, there really is not that much that I can say about those games besides that I had a blast playing them. I do remember that I was losing quite often, but it really didn't matter too much. All the 2D jump and runs were just mad fun to me. And something like A Link to the Past or Terranigma were so mysterious and magical to me. Granted, I didn't understand many things that were happening on the screen, but whatever I saw, I fell in love with it. And Prince of Persia was disgustingly hard. Also, something like Stunt Race FX was crazy good looking. How can a racing game be so realistic? Having the eyes of a child again would be quite something. The Super Nintendo is probably the console with the most games that I owned for a system. Though owned may be a stretch, but still, I experienced a lot of games for the first time ever thanks to that system. And even until today, I'm thankful to my parents that I was able to experience all of those different games at a young age already. It didn't take too long that my parents got their hands on a Nintendo 64. The switch to actual 3D was just beyond magical. Even though the actual release happened quite a few years before that, for me it felt new. I never saw something like that. Playing games like Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Wave Race 64 were definitely a defining moment in my life as a gamer. And let me think, I remember also Mario Kart 64, Bomberman 64, Super Smash Bros. 64, a lot of 64s in the titles, Diddy Kong Racing, and I think that's it. Definitely quite a bit less games than on the SNES, but not less impactful in any way. That was also the time where I started to be more curious on Easter eggs, secrets and stuff like that. Finding out that Yoshi is on the castle this whole time? Insane! The Kingdom of Hyrule is befriended with the Mushroom Kingdom? That's fantastic! Is there more hidden secrets somewhere? Who knows? I wouldn't even be surprised if I played through Super Mario 64 multiple times to 100%. Fantastic game, even today. I could probably say something about every game in depth, but that would explode the video into multiple hours probably. Warframe 64 was brilliant, played at an unhealthy amount, and Ocarina of Time was an experience. I was small and, like I said, I didn't understand that much, but the things I saw traversing that world, meeting these characters, and the story I played made me fall in love with the series from that moment on. That slightly darker and more epic tone compared to any other game I owned on that system was something else. I played Majora's Mask only way later and had to watch a playthrough on the game first in the early days of YouTube, like many more games that already released or would come out in the near future. And I was so fascinated by the legend of Zelda. I may address that we never had much money, to the point that money would only suffice for food.
Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
And that's about it, really. Which is part of the reason I never had a GameCube. Games like Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Pikmin, Luigi's Mansion were all games I would end up watching on YouTube. On a very ancient PC that had also pinball for Windows XP. And look, back then were different times. It was fantastic to be able to experience them all like that, if you weren't able to play them yourself. So yeah, at least I had that. My uncle had a PlayStation 1 laying around. I'm not sure if that was his own or if he got it from someone. In any case, he decided one day to gift us the PlayStation 1 with an actual steering wheel to play racing games. I remember playing Gran Turismo, Destruction Derby 2, some Formula 1 game. I do remember playing quite a few of them. But there are some that were engraved even deeper into my memory. The one with my fondest memories of that system, and also one that feels like a fever dream, is Monsters, Inc. Scare Island. I mean, I loved the movie already, and playing a game with the characters you love was always something special. The game had also fun gameplay ideas, and it had such charm as well. I don't know, like I said, it has been quite a while since I played it the last time, but there were so many fun modes and so many collectibles and mini games. I loved it. Simple as that. Great game. And Randall is a cheetah, by the way, piece of trash. There was also Donald Duck Quack Attack. Same here. Feels like a fever dream. This game gave me nightmares as a kid. The closest comparison to how the gameplay was is probably Crash Bandicoot. This game was also really charming, and I probably played through it multiple times trying to find and get all the collectibles. I remember also a Peter Pan game, Ballistic NHL 2000, I believe. And thinking about it, I also had worms on my old Samsung phone that you can just slide upwards and downwards. There was also some parachute game on my first old Nokia phone. And Snake. Yeah, and with my first smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy S3 Neo, I already tapped into emulation. Good times, man. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. I played that at my grandparents' house, and I do believe that my grandpa still has this game. Between the times, I also played some DS and Wii games at my cousin's house, like Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, some Need for Speed, Ratatouille. Yeah, can't remember much more. And also on a GameCube from someone that I just kinda knew. He had Super Mario Sunshine, and I believe Soul Calibur 2 and Mortal Kombat Deception. Haven't played much of them, but I got to experience them. I also remember playing Gravity Rush and Wipeout, but my memory is even more blurry on these games. I think it was on the PlayStation Vita, but I'm not sure who had it and where I played it. And my uncle had also a pretty powerful PC, and I got to play Need for Speed Underground 2 from time to time. Thinking about it, I actually played quite a few Need for Speed games in my life. Because I do remember later on, I also played Need for Speed Carbon at another cousin's house. I have a lot of them. My family is pretty big. And that not just once, by the way. I feel like every game is just fun as a kid. But yeah, moving on. I really didn't have that much games on the PlayStation 1. Like I said before, we didn't have much money, so buying a new console was something we simply couldn't afford. And the Wii was booming at the time. Everyone and their grandma knew what the Wii was and how great it is. Even my grandparents knew about the Wii. And even nowadays they call everything a Wii. But back then they approached our parents and wanted to make a surprise present. And decided to pretty much give their last shirt and put together the money with our parents to get us a Wii, plus Mario Kart for Wii in a bundle, with steering wheels and all the accessories for Wii Sports as well. I was probably the happiest kid in the whole universe at that moment. It was a fantastic experience, such a big and diverse cast and big selection of vehicles and maps, and driving around just felt good. And the music, boy, the music, all those cool modes, and yeah, I was happy. I also had Wii Sports Resort, absolutely brilliant game. That Pilot Wings style minigame was probably my most played one. And we played too, man. And Mario Party 8. I played quite a few of those more casual games, also since they were usually cheaper to find on eBay. But I was kinda craving something more serious, more epic. That's when I found Mickey Epic. Or Epic Mickey. I don't know why it's differently called between Europe and America. It had a cheap price on eBay, and I remember my mother bidding on it, but there was someone else also competing with us. My mom went to the toilet and I saw how she did that. There were only a few minutes left and she said we reached the limit. So, what did I do as a responsible kid? Well, have gone to the point where the other one just stopped going higher. It felt like a rush, and when he stopped, I realized my mistake, and we were winning it. I was scared for my life, man. It was slightly over $30, imagine. In a nutshell, I realized that it was a bad idea, and she just said, well, you better love this game really hard when you actually start to play it. And what can I say? I sure did. This game is the edgiest and most depressing piece of media that I have ever seen with a Disney logo on it. And I loved it. Sure, it was a bit clunky, but I didn't care that much really. The game mechanic with the two different ink types was fantastic. There were so many secrets to uncover, and the way of transitioning through the different worlds of Disney through those old school animations from them was so cool, man. Also, the fact that your choices mattered. If you either will quote-unquote kill the enemy or befriend them, something would change later on in the game. The overall atmosphere, the music, and some of the bosses and those disturbing animatronic versions of your beloved Disney characters, I also had nightmares from them. But together with Mario Kart Wii, definitely my most played and cherished game on that system. I also had New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Mario Party 8, which is peak Mario Party. Played it with myself only, like every other game in my whole life. Also Wii Party, and I think this may be it. Well, something that I wanted to touch upon very briefly is the fact that I have been a rather problematic child. Why am I even mentioning it? Because, well, some might wonder if I still have all of those consoles and games and whatever, but hear me out. Being bullied my whole life and having a hard time finding friends and all of that was part of the reason I had anger issues as a kid. And sometimes tended to break things, you know, throwing a Wii remote against the wall, for example. My parents weren't sure what to do, understandably, though they thought that video games were part of the problem, and at the same time money was more and more of an issue. So they eventually decided to either just give the games back to the people and sell the rest completely. And I was left with nothing. Now, was that a good or bad decision? It's a question which I'm still wondering about from time to time. But it happened. No need to think about it, really. At this point, I wasn't sure what to do with my life, to be honest, though. This isn't really the topic of the video, so yeah, moving on. Eventually, I needed a PC, a computer for school and stuff like that. And I eventually received a rather cheap laptop from my parents. I learned soon enough that, hey, it still can play games on lower settings. So what did I do? Exactly. The doors opened to Steam. I played a lot of games on that PC. The biggest games though were probably Dirt Showdown, Meet the Robinsons, and the really biggest one, Spiral Knight. As you probably realized, I love racing games, and Dirt Showdown reminded me a lot of a German event that has happened once a year called the Stock Car Crash Challenge. Your team has like 3 stocks, or 3 cars, and there are multiple races with different modes and pretty much no rules. And it was the unironically best thing television had to offer. And this game reminded me a lot of that, and boy did I love the game. The cousin that had Need for Speed Carbon also had Meet the Robinsons. And it is one of those feels like old school Zelda style puzzle adventure, open area. You know, you unlock different weapons and abilities through your adventure, explore the world, collect stuff. It was a really enjoyable game. I loved it. And it's one of the very few games I actually still possess. I also owned a different version for the DS that I played on my 3DS, but I will come to that later. This upcoming game makes me feel sad. At least nowadays. Spiral Knight. The world, the clockwork was beautiful. The story was fine as well. The soundtrack was... Oh man, the soundtrack. I'm still getting chills from hearing some of the songs playing in this game. Spiral Knight is an MMO where you can team up with 3 other people to travel the depths of the clockwork and search for resources. currencies, blueprints, fighting enemies and bosses, and unlocking some hella sick weapons and armor. You know, getting better and better, going deeper and deeper into the planet, almost like a roguelike, just that you're able to keep all the stuff you get. But there are many things to do with multiple modes. I started in 2012 and played for a while. It's probably my most played game on the PC ever. I've met so many people online, had a guild with which I had such a great time with. Bomberman minigames, Capture the Area minigames, I think it was called differently, but man, all of that was so much fun. Nowadays the servers are empty. The game is on life support really, and I think it's unfortunate that the game was never brought over to consoles. I'm sure many more people would have enjoyed the game. I'd like also to mention that I was absolutely more and more in love with horror games. Slender Man was getting more and more popular. Band Round, Herobrine, The G-Man, the gateway to hell in GTA 5, all those creepy pastas. And then Outlast came out. And Amnesia was a thing too, and a bit later Alien Isolation as well. Oh, dude, I was craving horror. The feeling and adrenaline rush it gave me was really addicting. Even nowadays, I'm in love with horror games. And there's another game, still in alpha. But this game has changed a lot of people's lives. That being Minecraft. I feel like everything positive that has been said about this game ever by others is something I can just agree with. It's calm, beautiful. Even today this game is my comfort game. And another little fun fact, I made with some classmates Minecraft videos on YouTube in 2013 or something, around that time frame, under the name Freshhaltefolie, obviously in German, playing survival games, Herobrine mode, and whatever there was, though I don't think these videos are still up. I'm also still mad about myself that we simply stopped. It could have been so much more nowadays, but oh well. After some talk with my parents, they agreed on buying me a 3DS with Super Mario 3D Land. And once again, I love that game. Something that had burned into my brain are all the theories and discussions about the aliens and UFOs and ghosts that you can find in this game, simply because it had happened before, that being in Super Mario Galaxy. The Mario lore we need. And instead of buying 3DS games, I had, once again, no money really. We went after DS games for the most part. Asterix and Obelix at the Olympics. I think that's how it was called. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, and later on Dream Team Brothers. I really want another game in that series, man. Some soccer game, and to be honest, I can't remember that much more. But I'll be honest here, the built-in games for the 3DS were something else. Remember those cards for the AR mini games the 3DS had to offer? Dude, I 100%ed the fishing mini game. I've gotten everything. This game had a final boss. I think it was a dragon you had to beat in a fishing mini game. In the fishing game. And making a photo of your face and you becoming your own enemy, or Street Pass. The Switch is kinda pathetic in that comparison. It really gave the 3DS personality, a sense of joy every time you simply started the system. And it also had a YouTube app. I loved watching Super Mario Glitchy 4 on that system, and it had Miiverse. But I will come to that in a bit. I really didn't have many games on the 3DS, but the experiences that I've gotten from them were still, once again, precious to me. Especially since it has been a while that I played a console game, so being able to play in that way again made me really happy. The Wii U was the first HD console of Nintendo, with some truly fantastic games coming out on that system. And I think my uncle came this time around in clutch and helped us out getting that system. Though I do remember my parents being way more hesitant. Though after a while they did decide to buy the system. And Nintendo Land! Man, this game was perfect. You know why? It introduced you to multiple different series that Nintendo had to offer. And sure, it's not like there were a one-to-one replica of the gameplay you'd see in the original games, but damn, they were still fun. That Metroid open area third-person shooter, where you can also fly around with Samus's ship and blast enemies away? Wow! Or that Pikmin game that brought me to buy Pikmin 3 and started an obsession of me doing 100% speedruns. F-Zero was also fun. The Zelda game was also pretty enjoyable. Everything was pretty fun, except the octopus dance. That was trash. Also, Pikmin 3 may as well be one of my favorite and most played games on that system. I'm not a big fan of strategy games, but this one? Chef's kiss, mwah. The adorable Pikmin, having to manage them all, trying to get all of the fruits, the disgusting boss fights and despair after losing more than 80% of your Pikmin because of your own mistakes, just to question your life choices and feeling guilty for at least a week? Hell yeah! Perfect game! Absolutely in love with it. I've also gotten Mario Kart 8. Back in the day when it was new, the game was so fresh and wild considering that you can just drive on walls and ceilings. That was cool. Probably my second most played game. And also the game that made me connect the Wii U to the internet. I haven't done that before with any system. I wanted that Mercedes DLC, and that opened a way to a lot of things. And the biggest reason was, well, let me start by saying that I had eventually gotten the permission to get another game, and I wanted to try something new, even though it was a risky decision. What if I don't like it, you know? And in any case, I eventually decided to get my hands on Splatoon. This game has changed my life by quite a bit, mainly because I also started using Miiverse because of it. I started to meet people through Splatoon. You know, friend requests started happening, we started talking with each other, playing together more often. Long distance friendships have been built, and I started with a girl, a guild. A club, you could say. Something that you would know from something like a community server. It's something that I did long ago in Miiverse. People would put a tag into their names and be part of our guild or club. Sounds childish, maybe, but me and her, we gathered more and more people around, younger and older folks, reaching over 100 people and more over time. I think I eventually also had 500 followers, and she 1000. Yeah, social media in a nutshell. But she also taught me or inspired me to start drawing. But going back to the guild, we made weekly gaming events in Splatoon, Mario Kart 8, Mario Maker. Oh yeah, Mario Maker. That was such a genius idea on Nintendo's part. Just letting people create their own levels was such a brilliant thing that led to so many fun moments. And we created levels and made challenges between us. And that has been continuing for many years. I also started to write things. People could sign in, quote unquote, and I would include them in a story that I created, and at the same time draw images to that story. And that would also happen once a week. And there were quite a few people gathering to listen and be really excited to read the next chapter and the story that I created. And I wanted to make it a bigger thing, you know, create my own universe and lore and stuff. This... man, this is still so wild to me. But as with many things, it is great when there are people that appreciate your work. That friendship went over to WhatsApp, then Skype, and... Hey, maybe I should make a video on that in the future. It's a video about games after all. Things haven't exactly ended well, as is kinda expected with anything social media. Though not ended well is kind of an understatement. It's a personal story that bothers me even today, many years later. Yeah, another game on the Wii U that was also brilliant was Lego City Undercover. GTA in Lego, with making fully use of the Wii U gamepad. Peak gaming. Absolutely hilarious writing. One of my favorite games on that system. I 100%ed it as well. Yes, I've gotten every single costume in that game. No, I wasn't exactly fine after that, but I certainly had a blast playing through the open world of Lego City. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Splatoon 1 was my most played game on that system. And in my humble opinion is still the best game in the series. Why? Let alone for the superior online gameplay. Like, the second and third game had way more issues than the first game never really had. And it was the first game that taught me what rage quitting was. I was rank S, which was the highest rank you could get back then. And when S Plus released, that was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate online level of painful. But I reached it eventually, and never touched the game again. I also had New Super Mario Bros. U. I had also a blast playing that. Wii Party U, even though I played it once again by myself. Yoshi's Woolly World, which was fine. My little brother wanted it, even though he really isn't that much of a gamer. And if he games, then on his tablet. Either playing Genshin or Asphalt 9 or whatever, I don't know. Even though I gave him my old Switch and the permission to play every game that he wants from my massive collection. But whatever. But even though I haven't dwelled too much into the end of Miiverse, it was also part of a reason that I also lost those consoles and the right to play on my laptop. There's once again a lot that could be said about that, but once again, nowadays it feels like a fever dream from another life. Asking my parents, they simply didn't know what else to do, especially because of my anger issues as a kid. And I decided to simply play phone games for a while. There's quite a time frame between me losing the Wii U and 3DS and getting this Switch. It was also the time where I've probably hit my lowest point in life for multiple reasons. I knew that the Switch was a thing, and the only thing I do heard is that the Switch will probably fail, like the Wii U, and that Nintendo had still gotten the title of a company for children. Even today this hasn't changed, and that you only play Nintendo when you're like 9 years old. And in general, Germany is a really heavy PlayStation and PC focused country when it comes to gaming, and only graphics really matter. I'm not joking, I know a lot of people that measure a game just by its graphics, and that Nintendo games are by default garbage because of their graphics, which is also called art style, you uncultured piece of trash. And Pokemon. is the only good series that Nintendo is producing. Yeah, sure. I was really curious though. I was an apprentice as a precision mechanic and started to get a bit of money. I also heard some fantastic things about Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Also, because in 2017 was the first year I watched the Game Awards, and Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year. So in 2018, in January, I decided to get myself a Switch. Parents this time around not really involved anymore, together with Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Like I said, I wasn't at a good spot, and both music at the time, which inspired me to become a music producer, plus me starting to create my own songs, mash up songs from bigger names, which definitely influenced the trailers that you see on this channel, and those games I now owned kinda gave me a reason to keep going. And also my parents, because after all they still wanted us to be happy, and they sure tried their best. Both Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey showed me why I loved video games in the first place. I had such a good time exploring Hyrule in an open world for the first time ever, and there are no boundaries. I could go wherever I want. The story was definitely more turned down in comparison to every other entry before, but it made sense for the setting. I loved the atmosphere in this game, so much that I also played the game in Master Mode, and 100%ed it in Master Mode. Yes, I've gotten every Korok seed. I also 100%ed Super Mario Odyssey. These games hold a special place in my heart. I also played a lot of Fortnite, and it was still pretty new. I started the game in Season 4, and look, I had a blast. This game was mad fun. And in general, I started to look once again more into free-to-play games. And there was a lot of games to choose from, and I saw one game coming out to that system. And that game was called Warframe.
Sheldon, we're doing a live stream, eh? Dude, you gotta...
Dude, I know you're addicted to Zelda. For the first time in history...
I'm not sure how many hours I spent on both Splatoon and Spiral Knight, but I'd like to believe that Warframe holds a record with, well, 1,400 hours of playtime. This game reminded me a lot of Spiral Knight in a way where it didn't really feel like your usual free-to-play game. I'm a sucker for a good story, a lore that people establish, where a lot of thought is just simply put into it. And Warframe has it for sure. The story is interesting and mysterious. The gameplay loop is ridiculously fun. There's one heck of things to do and to collect and to explore, and I started when the first open world on planet Earth was unveiled, and Revenant was the next Warframe coming out. As of right now, I haven't played the game in a while, simply because I got burnt out by the game, but I would love to go back to it someday. And also, I saw that Soulframe was a thing, a new game by Digital Extremes that somehow connects to Warframe lore-wise. But we have to wait and see, I suppose. I'm definitely gonna check it out though when it arrives. If you haven't seen anything of Warframe, listen to the main theme of this game called This Is What You Are. Chills. Every damn time. I'm in absolute love with this game. And through all of that time, I I had an absolute blast playing it. And it's insane that this game is free. It really is insane, and maybe the best free-to-play game that you can play. I'd like also to mention that this game's community is the least toxic community I met in my entire life. Communities like the one from Apex Legends of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate seem like hell in comparison. It may be a bad comparison, but still. I've met a lot of people online, and I met some genuinely nice and generous people in this game. You guys made this experience even more fantastic than it already was. To all those people out there helping me and just being nice, thank you all. And also thanks to all the developers who made this game truly feel like a passion project. With all those community events and dev streams that I watched almost religiously, it really felt like it. Dream, not of who you are, but of who you want to be. Over time, a lot of good games came out, but the next big thing was, yes, Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm also here thinking about making a separate video on that matter, on my experience with the game, because there's quite a lot to talk about here. When the remaster of the first game was revealed at the end of a direct, I was a bit disappointed. What the hell is Xenoblade Chronicles? I eventually got reminded that I watched a video before from Blunts, which was my first introduction to the series. And the video was called This Is Near. And hey, cat girls. Look, I don't really watch anime. I love Pokemon and freaking Beyblade, but I never watched much more than that. Oh, and also of course my friend Totoro and the Castle in the Sky, and there were some older also Ghibli movies that I watched and still hold a special place in my heart. But going back, this game seemed to me like your generic anime, slightly unnecessary, overly sexualized, overly trying too hard to be funny kind of game. Look, I never instantly judge games, I never do, but it just looked like that to me. And I heard a lot of people talking trash about the second game. Then this trailer dropped. The last time I've gotten chills this intense was from the Breath of the Wild trailer. And this is when I knew I'll put it into my backlog. Weird decision? Maybe. But I didn't have that much money once again to spend, and it only happened with this video where I started reading comments, and there were a lot of comments saying, if you've never played Xenoblade, you're missing out on one of the greatest games of all time, which were big words. And lucky enough, the game was on sale for $30. That's when I bought the game, and I took a week off from work to play the game. Fast forward, I finished the game in a single week. I was broken for 2 weeks after that. Yeah, okay, like I said, the video is already quite long. Maybe I'll do one more in-depth video about this series where I also include spoilers, and I can freely talk about them because there's no point of talking spoilers in this video. So this game, with its incredible story, characters, and music, dear lord, the music. That world, I've never seen something like that before. This is so cool. Two titans, one being biological and the other one being mechanical. Like, damn, dude, that's such a cool idea. And I realized on how wrong I was about the series, and hey, maybe I should try more games for the first time ever. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is probably one of the best few moments that I had in my life gaming-wise. After Xenoblade 1, I played Astral Chain, then Fire Emblem Three Houses, then Hollow Knight, Ori and the Blind Forest, and then ended it with Xenoblade 2 and Torna after that. played through all of them in a few months, and I was a changed man after playing all of those games. I feel like everything else that I played after that felt almost disappointing. Those games have increased my standard for games so much on the story part, music part, and just so many more points to a degree where many games just feel mediocre at best nowadays. If you haven't played any of those games, please give them a try. Then there was Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Metroid Dread, Little Nightmares 1 and 2, and I also have the TV edition for 2, Hyrule Warriors, and now with having a job, I'm also having the biggest backlog I ever had. It's depressing now that I'm lacking just time instead of money to play them all. Like, how is that fair? I don't know. Eventually Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out, which blew me so hard away that reading some toxic comments on that game from people never even having played it and calling it anime weeb trash pushed me into making this video. And then, well, kicking off this channel. Like I said, I'll go deeper into my experiences with the series in another video, if you would like that. But yeah, you know about everything else that happened. That was my story in a nutshell, and I probably missed some games still, like Luigi's Mansion 3, Mario and Rabbids, or some games I played through an emulator on my phone. But I hope I was able to tell my story in an enjoyable and interesting way. There are still games like Halo, Kingdom Hearts, BioShock, Final Fantasy, Nier, Mass Effect, Doom, Yakuza, Undertale, Outer Wilds, and so much more I'd love to play. I simply love video games. And I would love to see a world where people can just enjoy video games for what they are. No one getting judged and all of us just having a good time. And even though I think it's not possible in the grand scheme of things, I'd like to be the person who creates a space where people can enjoy themselves, no matter what they love. Because that's what I always craved to do. Even since the earlier days. Okay. Look folks, I wish you all a fantastic holiday time and a great time with your loved ones, or even if you're alone. I hope you will still be able to have a good time as well. Stay safe. You're being loved. Even if you don't believe that, look, let me be the one to tell you that, alright? You're being appreciated. Thank you for being here. And thank you all for watching this video. And if you're still here, you have my utmost gratitude. Thank you guys very much. And I will see you, my friend, no matter who you are, I will see you next year. Alright? Have a good one.